Welcome to Ducks in a Row, the Estate Planning Guide.
Welcome to Ducks in a Row, the Estate Planning Guide with attorney Erin Nunes, one of the managing partners at Surprenant, Beneski and Nunes Estate Planning and Elder Law. Erin and her team of dedicated legal professionals are helping Southeastern Massachusetts families plan for tomorrow, today. I'm Evan Mack, and today we're talking about what happens if someone becomes unable to make decisions for themselves and there's no plan in place. Miss Erin, welcome back.
Thank you so much.
So what does it mean for someone to be, legally unable to make decisions for themselves in Massachusetts?
So that's an interesting question, actually, because lots of times, families will come to us and say, my loved one can't make decisions, or the doctor feels like they, can't make decisions for themselves. But truly, it's the court that makes that determination. So in order for someone to have their right to make their own decisions taken away from them, that's through the court processes of conservatorship with regard to legal and financial decision making, and guardianship with regard to medical decision making. So if someone loses capacity and they don't have a power of attorney in place, a healthcare proxy in place, then their loved ones have to petition the probate and family court to become either both the guardian and the conservator, or one or the other, depending on the circumstances. And that is the court reviewing testimony, medical records that are submitted to determine whether or not this individual does or does not have capacity to make decisions for themselves. So that's a really expensive and time-consuming process that families, for the most part, would prefer to avoid if they can. And that's why it's really so important to make sure that you have some at least basic estate planning documents in place.
So, Erin, what are some of the most common situations where families suddenly, find themselves dealing with this?
Typically, it's a diagnosis like dementia, Alzheimer's, that accelerates faster than anyone hoped that it would. Also accidents, mom had a fall and she banged her head. And unfortunately, she's unconscious. She's in the hospital. She can't make decisions for herself. So typically it's scenarios like that. It's almost always a crisis. When we get those phone calls, mom or dad or aunt, uncle, whomever is in the hospital, the doctor saying that they can't make decisions for themselves. They're looking for our healthcare proxy, our power of attorney. We don't have those documents. What do we do? That's where we have to start talking about the court processes for decision making.
If there are no documents in place, what decisions immediately become difficult or even blocked for some people?
Whether or not someone needs surgery, whether they consent to the patient receiving certain medications, which may be critical, whether they can be transitioned from the hospital to, say, rehabilitation, or if it's not safe for them to come home, into an assisted living setting or a long-term care facility setting. You have to have authority to make those types of decisions for someone else. And that authority is either derived through documents like powers of attorney and healthcare proxies, or through those court appointments as guardian and conservator. So it can be a really frustrating time for your family because they just want to care for you. They want to make sure your needs are being met, not traipsing into the probate court if they don't have to.
What does a family usually have to go through to get that authority, to step in and provide help?
So they've got to petition the court. It's documents that have to be submitted. There's medical evaluations that need to be submitted into the court. Generally, you have to appear in court, typically alongside your attorney if you're working with an attorney on that process. So again, it's, missed time from work. It's missed time from spending quality time with your loved ones. It's the expense. It's just a lot. It's a very overwhelming process. And again, it can really be avoided if the person who loses capacity has done some pre-planning.
How does that delay or lack of authority affect things like finances, medical care, and day-to-day responsibilities, Erin?
So it means that your family cannot handle things for you. So you might have bills that are accumulating. You might have debts that need to be paid. You might have medical decisions that need to be made that no one has the authority to handle. A lot of people think when they're married that their spouse will automatically get to do those things for them. But unfortunately, that isn't the case. Your spouse, your children, your siblings, they are not automatically vested with the rights to make those decisions for you. So when there's a lack of access to financial resources, oftentimes either you're dealing with creditors coming knocking because they want to get paid, or family members are assuming those responsibilities themselves with the hope that they can be reimbursed for those expenditures. But not every family has the means to be able to do that. So it can create a real stressful time for your family.
What are some of the biggest challenges families run into once they're in the middle of that situation?
I would say who gets to be the decision maker. You know, if you're married or you have a couple of children, you know, they may have differing opinions on what your wishes are. Who should be the right person to make those decisions for you. So that can create a lot of conflict within your family. And that can make things, you know, just really hard for them. If you've gone through and you've chosen who you want to make your medical decisions, who you want to make your financial decisions, then at least they know this is what they wanted. They chose this person. So that can help streamline things a little bit and reduce some of the hurt feelings, if you will, when siblings perhaps are trying to decide who's the right person for this role.
So can you share an example, Erin, where, the experience looked very different for a family that had a plan in place, ahead of time?
Oh, absolutely. When there's a plan in place and there's guidance in place, it makes things so much easier for your family. It's less time consuming. It's obviously less expensive because they're not paying court fees. They're not paying for attorneys to appear in court on their behalf. And they're reassured that when they're making decisions, they're acting in accordance with what your wishes are. That can be an enormously difficult thing to do, to have to step into someone's shoes and make, perhaps difficult end of life decisions for someone. If they have documents that they can look to say, this is why I'm making this decision, that can ease some of that burden that your loved ones may feel. So it's night and day. Oftentimes families are not as open about their wishes, about their end of life wishes, as we might hope that they would be. Mm-hmm. So if you haven't taken the time to do that and your family is being appointed by the court to make decisions, they might be flying blind, and just doing the best that they can. But again, opinions can differ about what is best for you. And that can create a lot of headaches that can last, far beyond your illness, far beyond your passing. It can create permanent rifts within families. And that's heartbreaking to see.
What specific pieces of planning help avoid, putting families in that position like the one you just mentioned?
Sure. The two most critical documents, in my opinion, in all of estate planning are your durable power of attorney and your healthcare proxy. So those are the documents that allow you to choose who you want to step into your shoes and handle things like paying your bills, going to the bank for you, filing your taxes, handling your insurance and your retirement accounts, legal and financial decision making. The other side of that coin is for medical decision making, and that is done via the healthcare proxy. So that empowers the agent that you choose to step in and make medical decisions for you in the event that you cannot make them for yourself. So that's going to be things like, should you have surgery? Should you have a particular type of medication? Planning for services at home, things of that nature.
So, Miss Erin, looking at it from both sides, how different does the situation feel for families who plan versus the ones who do not plan?
Not to put too fine a point on it, but, it's really a nightmare. When there is no planning in place, the stress levels, they're up here. People have a lot going on, generally speaking, in their own lives. And then they're stepping in, trying to do the right thing for their loved one with no starting point, nowhere to go. And they're just kind of trying to figure it out as best they can. And that is very, very stressful. We try to do as much as we can for our clients, even in those tough situations, to provide them with good guidance. But it's not always a perfect scenario. Versus if you've taken the time to execute your planning, if you're comfortable to have conversations with your loved ones about what your wishes are, that is going to make things so much easier for your family.
Good stuff. Super important stuff, Ms. Erin. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. That's it for today's episode of Ducks in a Row, the estate planning guide. If you'd like to learn more or speak with Erin and her team, you can visit myfamilyestateplanning.com. Thank you so much for listening. And don't forget to like, leave a review, and subscribe to the show so you don't miss the next episode. We'll see you all next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.